4 years ago, I first saw a spotted lanternfly, and I thought it was pretty, like a butterfly-ladybug hybrid. I knew that lanternflies were invasive to New York City, and the way they suck on sap makes plants and trees vulnerable to disease. Even so, I didn't want mine to be the shoe to kill them. I read an article in the New York Times with a headline that I found relatable. There's a new natural predator in New York City, and the government wants us to kill it. Can we summon the resolve? I do strive for environmentalism and civic responsibility, so after that, I started stomping on lanternflies. My guilt soon faded, and the stomping became a sort of a game. Flash forward to last week. I was weeding in my garden. My hand brushed against a spotted lanternfly, and I recoiled. I felt an embodied revulsion. And it occurred to me that I had trained myself in disgust. Easily and unconsciously, I had manufactured a revulsion. Disgust is a natural sensation, but we are trained in its specific triggers. Disgust can be self-protective and useful. The squeamishness that makes us avoid decay encourages hygienic behavior. But disgust is also learned, and most of its triggers are not universal. Blowing a nose in public, smoking cigarettes, touching a bug, eating pigs or horses, or eating with the left hand disgusts some people and not others. The visceral sensation of disgust is often followed by feelings of disdain or contempt. The body can easily influence belief. As Charles Darwin wrote, extreme contempt, or as it is often called, loathing contempt, hardly differs from disgust. Feeling disgust in our bodies can lead to hate in our minds. Disgust can whirl us out of control, out of our rational minds, which is what makes it so powerful and dangerous, a tool for persuasion. Naming disgust when we feel it helps us keep a wall between our emotional impulses and our rational minds. Feelings of revulsion, so easily provoked, manufactured, and weaponized, ought not to drive our morality. Indeed, Judaism requires that we hold an ethical standard that stands sturdily against the strong winds of emotion. Rational ethical standards are essential even and especially in the face of moral revulsion. Violent crime appropriately is revolting to us, not just in our minds in a theoretical way, but in our guts, our kishkas. Witnessing bloodshed, be it firsthand or through reporting, can make us physically sick. Today, Jewish law has functionally overturned capital punishment. Our tradition has qualified standards of evidence, procedure, and court composition for capital cases to the point that the death penalty is impossible in practice. But that was not the case in ancient Israel. After a violent death, ancient Israel believed that the only way for expiation, kippur, the washing away of the stain of sin, the only way to cleanse itself of that sense of pollution, was to kill a killer, a retaliatory death. Sometimes. The book of Numbers explains that after someone killed another, a court would determine whether it was murder or involuntary manslaughter. A murderer faced the death penalty, but an accidental killer fled to one of 6 arei miklat, sanctuary cities or cities of refuge. He lived there until the death of the high priest. The topic of sanctuary cities returns in this week's Torah portion, Va'et Hanan. Amidst these soaring theological passages is a business-like insertion, Moses repeats the names of sanctuary cities and reiterates their purpose. And perhaps the principle sounds simple enough, but if you press on it, fault lines appear quickly. In the real world, the line between murder and accidental death often isn't so bright. As we know from tragedies, trials, and relentless news cycles of our own day, a community often can't agree upon a killer's degree of culpability. A person texts while driving, an unqualified doctor performs surgery, a guardian leaves his children in a hot car, a police officer shoots a civilian, a family dog attacks. When deaths ensue, sometimes legal culpability is clear, but sometimes we see an eye-poppingly bright stain of guilt that other people seem not to. This must have happened in ancient Israel too. After a killer left for a sanctuary city, some people must have remained awash in feelings of revulsion over a blood guilt, a pollution, a defilement that had gone insufficiently punished. Still, this was the law. Even if Israelites felt disgust, the people needed to move forward without more bloodshed. They could not stay mired in their moral revulsion. We cannot stay mired in our moral revulsion. In a recent piece for The Atlantic, Elizabeth Bruenig reflects on the uphill battle of convincing Americans to abolish the death penalty. She writes in unsparing detail about the crimes that people she's met on death row committed and about the execution she witnesses. This work deepens her opposition to capital punishment. Paraphrasing the philosopher Seneca, Bruenig writes, "It is better to restrain one's impulses than to indulge them, especially when they involve destructive tendencies, such as wrath and cruelty." Jewish tradition suggests that restraint is particularly important in the face of our strongest emotions, the type of emotions with the potential to consume us. Biblical law tells grieving family members to put down their weapons. In Pirkei Avot, Ben Zoma teaches that the mighty man is the one who kovesh et yitzro, who controls his inclination. Moral strength requires restraint. On Tuesday, the state of Tennessee killed Byron Black by lethal injection. Black was convicted of heinous murders, the worst you can imagine, and then worse. He never expressed remorse to his victim's family. Black was likely the first person put to death with a defibrillator in his chest, which his lawyers warned would shock his heart and turn the execution into a grotesque spectacle. Early reporting on his death suggests that it was, in fact, gruesome. Reading about Black's crimes made me sick. Reading about the torture he experienced also made me sick. I'm sick in all directions. So my disgust doesn't help me think through the ethics of this case or others like it, and maybe it shouldn't. The gut feeling of revulsion is perhaps an unhelpful input for moral thinking. Our country is deeply divided on the issue of capital punishment. Emotions are high. Religion helps us navigate swirling emotions by asking an essential question: what do we believe? It is a question we should constantly ask ourselves. Religion is not just a container for emotions, but also a system that cultivates moral conviction. Judaism affirms that such convictions can be stronger than feelings. I believe that the moral pathways which the Torah established and the Talmud expanded lead to mercy. As Bruenig explains, mercy doesn't require forgiveness. I believe that a state deciding who lives and who dies claims an authority that rightly belongs to God alone. The history of wrongful convictions leads me to believe a justice system needs the humility of restraint. And practically, I'm convinced that capital punishment does not work to deter crime. I still feel revulsion toward violent criminals, but what I believe is stronger than what I feel. 28 people have been put to death in the United States so far in 2025. Right now, 9 other executions are scheduled for this year. The next is Cale Barrington Bates, scheduled to die by lethal injection in Florida on August 19th. Everyone on death row is convicted of crimes that elicit disgust, loathing, and fury. But we ought not allow such emotions to drive policy. We can acknowledge them and still choose mercy. Kenya Hiratson.